Hello and welcome to the F1Stop show. I'm your host, Sam Oni, and with me virtually is Wes Spearman. Wes, how are you today?
Yeah, pretty good. Pretty tired. I basically drove a 2-3 hour round trip for an hour and a half meeting, so a lot of time doing not a lot basically. But besides that, I'm all good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good.
Feeling better?
Um, Feeling better after my battle with COVID a few days ago, but yeah, feeling much better. Um, 8 episodes we are. We're in 8 episodes now, and we had the Australian Grand Prix, which felt like a very long time ago.
It's only Tuesday. It's only like 2 days ago, but yeah, it feels like it happened last week, really.
Yeah, and it didn't disappoint. Did you know? Did you know that the record attendance for the Australian Grand Prix was 42,220 people, according to WTF1
I thought,
social.
I thought it was I thought it was like 10 times. I was at 420,000. It was a lot. It was the record for an Australian Grand. Was it a sports event in Australia
I
altogether?
I believe so.
Which is
Yeah.
quite, yeah, that's quite something for. I mean, I get it's over 3 days, but if you think about it, I mean, from a cricket perspective, anyway, the Melbourne Cricket Ground, the biggest cricket ground in Australia, not quite in the world anymore, that holds about 80-90,000 people, and the Test match is
Mm,
over 5 days. So if you think about it, that's potential for 450,000, about the same as the Australian Grand Prix, and yeah, that that beats it pretty by a long way.
yeah.
So yeah, I
It
think
was.
I think Australia have missed F1 obviously because of COVID and the pandemic. It's the first time in 3 years
Yeah.
F1 has been there. So yeah, it shows how much the Australian Grand Prix was missed, even though certainly in recent years it hasn't been great for racing. I think typically it's only I think in one season, I think 2019 or 18, the race only had like 3 on-track overtakes. So recently it hasn't been great for racing, but yeah, I think this year it put on a good show with the track changes.
Yeah, it did. With like the DRS zones, I think there was like three,
Four
three new DRS zones.
four DRS zones.
Four DRS
It's
zones.
basically the whole track at that point. It's
I
crazy.
don't know. Yeah, it was. I don't think it's becoming too much, but I think it's I think it's all right for DRS zones. It gives better opportunity for overtaking, and yeah. So the race itself. Now, if you're a Ferrari fan, you're gonna love Charles Leclerc because he did it again, winning the Australian Grand Prix, and also he achieved a Grand Slam, meaning a Grand Slam is where a driver takes pole position, fastest lap, and also takes the race win all in one weekend. And Charles Leclerc achieved that.
Yeah, it was quite
What
a.
do you make of it?
It's just a dominant performance from Charles Leclerc, and yeah, we can say Ferrari have got the fastest car this year, but to win by what 20 seconds, that's a huge margin in Formula One. Why in any motorsport really? But I think it was the biggest winning margin since Michael Schumacher. I can't remember which Grand Prix, but Michael Schumacher in 2002, also for Ferrari. The first Grand Slam for Ferrari as well since Alonso in Singapore 2010, I believe, as well. So quite a, just a, as I said, dominant victory from Charles Leclerc. No one has seemed to have caught him for the whole. I mean, I'd say whole season, 3 races, but yeah, it just seems he and Ferrari have they've found their mojo this year, and yeah, if only Red Bull can solve their, their reliability problems again. Was 3 cars retired in 3 races? Yeah, they were all right in Saudi Arabia, but 1 race out of 3 is not looking too good for Max Verstappen at the moment. But yeah, just a complete masterclass from Ferrari and Charles Leclerc yet again.
Yeah, and Max Verstappen, Leclerc's title rival, we say. Max Verstappen, he didn't finish the race, and like you said, powertrain problems. It wasn't wasn't great in Bahrain, and it's happened again to the Dutchman in Australia. So it begs the question: will Max be able to defend his title if he
Yeah,
keeps having these problems?
I think he said something either today or yesterday. I can't remember what, but it didn't sound good. It basically sounded like he'd given up already after 3 races, but I don't think that's the case. I think he's been quite sort of happy-go-lucky. I think with the press and media this year, being quite sarcastic and jokey. But yeah, Red Bull, the engines just seem to last 90% of a race, just not the last 10%. Because again, it was
Yeah,
in the lap 50 something when Verstappen's engine went, literally like 5-6 laps before the end, if that. And yeah, it's just these little things will cost Red Bull hugely over the course of the season. I mean, Verstappen's lost out on arguably 2 race wins, very arguably, but at the very least, I can't remember how many points you can get for coming second. 22? Is it 20? I can't remember. Hang on. Where is it? Where is it? 18 points for second. So at the very least, he's lost out on arguably 36 points, which is a huge amount already, given that the gap between second and first, which I believe is George Russell in second place, that gap's
yeah,
already 34 points, which is bigger than anything we saw last year between Verstappen and Hamilton. And I think it's the biggest gap between 2 drivers since Hamilton and Rosberg in 2016, when obviously Rosberg won his one and only title. So if Red Bull to be having engine problems and reliability problems this early, I mean, are we going to see something like we saw with McLaren Honda in 2016, 2017, when they had to use like 10 engines or something like 20 parts throughout the season? I hope not for Red Bull's sake, but yeah, it's not looking too good at the moment. They've got the pace to keep up with Ferrari, but those reliability issues, they're going to cost them big, I think.
yeah. And Sergio Perez, Verstappen's teammate, he managed to finish the race and get a podium himself, second place. Pretty good from the Mexican. Very proud. So but I think Mercedes will be maybe the biggest winners this weekend, especially George Russell, because he actually got his first podium for the Silver Arrows. Now that's a
Yeah,
big achievement.
huge achievement for him. And I suppose in reality, arguably it should be his first actual podium, given Spa last year was a bit iffy as it
Yeah.
was it actually a race, but but yeah, first podium for Mercedes, sort of robbed of it in Sakir 2020 when he had tyre issues, someone put on the wrong set of tyres and he had a puncture and what have you. But yeah, hugely proud moment for George Russell, and yeah, for Lewis Hamilton to finish fourth as well after Mercedes have been so off the pace compared to what we've been used to seeing is a huge achievement for both of them. And also another team that won out of this weekend was McLaren, given they finished fifth and sixth with Norris and Ricciardo. Huge improvements from them, given what we've seen in the previous 2 races when they're basically just scrapping for points. Really, they're just about
Yeah.
making it into the top 10. And Ricciardo's again had a poorish start to the season with McLaren. Whether he's not used to the car, not used to the team, whatever, whether he doesn't show with the team, I don't know. But yeah, he seems to be. Well, I say seems to be. Yes, it is one race, but yeah, a good weekend for McLaren, good weekend for Mercedes. Obviously, Ferrari, besides Carlos Sainz, who a bit of a shocker, really qualified.
Yeah,
Quite,
I was quite surprised. Well, not surprised. I was a bit disappointed, really, with Carlos Sainz. He didn't have the best weekend. Qualifying, I think P9. He
yeah,
qualified in P9.
ninth, and then yeah, I think dropped down to 14th before he retired. I can't remember why he retired. I think he spun out. I can't quite remember now.
Yeah, wasn't really great for the Spaniard. So but I think he's a driver that will easily brush himself off and bounce back in the next
Yeah,
race. So I don't think Ferrari and Sainz should be too disheartened about what happened in Australia.
Yeah, I mean, Sainz is still third in the championship. He's still got 33 points. He's only 4 behind Russell. So, I mean, just looking at the constructors, Ferrari on 104, Mercedes on 65, they're still quite a way ahead of anyone else at this point. And yeah, as you say, it's an off race for Carlos, but I think we've got Imola in not this weekend, but next weekend. I'm sure he'll bounce back for that. Imola, Ferrari, Italy, they'll want to perform at that track. Same with Charles Leclerc, and I think Imola is a great track. I think the drivers like the track. I mean, I'm a personal favourite of the track. I do quite like Imola just because it is quite a fast track. But yeah, an off weekend for Carlos Sainz. But yeah, as you said, I'm fairly sure he'll bounce back from that.
And just other names to mention: Alex Albon in the Williams car. He finished in the points, finishing 10th in the race. That's 1 point for the Williams team.
Just outrageous from Alex Albon. But he got disqualified after qualifying for, I think, the same issue Sebastian Vettel had at last year's Hungarian Grand Prix, not being able to provide a litre sample of fuel. So disqualified from qualifying, then did 57 laps on a set of hard tyres. Basically all but one lap of the race on hard tyres. He only had to pit because you have to in the regulations. You have to make a pit stop. You have to use 2 different compounds of tyre. And I think he was quite close to potentially being disqualified from the race. If Leclerc had lapped him, then that would have been Albon's race over, and he wouldn't have used 2 compounds of tyre. So he probably would have been disqualified from that if Leclerc had lapped him. But yeah, fortunately enough for him, he was able to pit for, I think, onto whatever compound, soft, medium, I don't know, for literally the last lap of the race, and still finished 10th to get a point for Williams, which that's just ridiculous. 57 laps on one set of tyre is insane. Yeah, I've got to hit lap 57 after near enough an hour and a half of racing. That's crazy.
It almost, you know what? It almost reminds me of last season. I think towards the latter end of the season, I've forgotten what Grand Prix it was. I think one of the Alpine drivers, I don't know, either Ocon or Alonso, I think they went almost the whole race without pitting.
Yeah, Esteban Ocon at Turkey, yeah, where it was sort of too wet to pit for slick tyres, which didn't work out well for Sebastian Vettel. Did a lap on slicks and was spinning off all over the place. But it was too dry for full wets. So, and there was a lot of debate about whether sort of new inters were the way to go, or just stay on one set of inters. If it's a wet race, you don't have to pit, of course. And yeah, Ocon didn't pit. His tyres were basically slicks at the end of it. There was no tread left on them whatsoever. Yeah, a 0-stop race, and Albon on Sunday doing basically a 0-stop race. He only had to pit because of the regulations. I'm sure he could have done all 58 laps on one set of hards, which is insane. I mean, to race that hard and fast for 58 laps, an hour and a half on one set of tyres is, I mean, fair play to Pirelli for making the tyres that good, but at the same time, we sort of want to see some tyre depth to allow for different strategies. But having said that, it's a brilliant effort from Alex Albon. I'm all for that personally. I think that's absolutely brilliant strategy in a way from Williams to make the tyres, and Albon to make the tyres last that long, and to still maintain 10th position after having pit on the last lap. Hats off to them. They made it work, and they've got a point out of it as well.
Yeah, which is great for the British team. So how did you do with your predictions then?
I think I did okay. I guess Leclerc for pole and Leclerc for winner. And I guess Bottas for driver of the day. It was another Leclerc Grand Slam, if you like, of our predictions. Pole, race win, and driver of the day.
You should have gone for a clean sweep with that one.
I should have done. Yeah, I've got 2 points that weekend.
I was thinking Max Verstappen would would bring it home, and Pierre Gasly would get driver of the day, but didn't happen. Didn't happen.
Yeah.
So how would you rate the race then? After watching Australia, listening to Australia, how would you rate the race out of
Um,
10?
I suppose as a whole, I'd probably give it a 6 or a 7. Probably lean slightly towards a 7, given how sort of dull the races in the recent Australian Grand Prix have been, given the
Mhm.
just severe lack of overtaking. But yeah, this year with the track change, they seem to have worked. They seem to have spiced things up a little bit. Same with the 4 DRS zones. Um, yeah, you can say it's a bit is it a bit artificial if you like, but at the same time, DRS is a part of F1. It has been for quite some time now. So, and if it helps promote better overtaking, more racing, then brilliant, great. And yeah, I think it worked this weekend. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 7 out of 10.
7 out of 10. Yeah, okay. I can work with that. I thought listening to it, I thought it was okay. It wasn't exciting. It wasn't a bum off your seats moment, if you get what I mean. It was all right. There were changes to the race, with the DRS zones. We saw Charles Leclerc have a great race. Well, not great race, but a dominant race, I should say. Dominant race. And, a Grand Slam winner. But it didn't really excite me. So I'm gonna give it a 6 out of 10. It was an okay race. It was okay.
Yeah,
So
just
6 out of
just above
6 out of
average,
10.
really.
Yeah, just above average. So we still got like 18, 17 more races to go.
Plenty, too many to count.
Yeah, too many to count. So yeah. I mean, well, we haven't got
that's
anything rushed.
no, that's about, isn't it? Although
That's about
there
it.
was, although just to add on to this, not F1 related, but Formula E was back this weekend as well. In
Oh
red, I
yeah,
believe Mitch Evans won back-to-back races for Jaguar.
he did. He did. And I know Jaguar is your favorite team. So how are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I do quite like Jaguar. A, because it's a local team to me from Oxfordshire. I literally followed, well, not followed one of one of its lorries I'd say a few months ago, quite a few months ago. But yeah, it's a local team to me, and one of my favorite, well, probably arguably my favorite driver, Sam Bird, has moved from
Yeah.
Envision to Jaguar last season, I think. So yeah, big fan of Jaguar, and yeah, Mitch Evans as well. I think he's a pretty good driver. And looking at the standings, Mitch Evans into ninth, Stoffel Van Dorn in third, Robin Freintz second for Envision, and Jean-Eric Verne is so often is the case, I suppose, with Formula E at the top with the Diesta Cheetahs. So it's quite close at the top, just 4 points separating that top three, 9 points separating the top four, 11 points separating the top five. So it is quite close, Formula E, and I need to watch more of it. I haven't watched enough Formula E lately.
Yeah, it's really exciting. I really enjoy watching Formula E. I watched both races at the weekend. I was really excited by it. And it's great fun. If you wanna, like sway away from Formula One for a bit and jump into the electrical world of Formula E, then that's for you. Really enjoyable. So I guess that's about it. I've been your host, Samuel Oni, and this has been the F1Stop show. Do remember to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and you can also email us as well. So yeah, I've been your host, Sam Oni, and it's a goodbye from me. Bye bye. And it's a goodbye from Wes.
Bye bye.
And we hope you have a wonderful week.